Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another video. This video is about how, if you identify yourself as a good girl or a good boy, or if you have this urge to always prove that you're a good boy, a good girl, this is limiting your success. So before we start, my name is Dragana Spika and I'm a rapid transformational therapist and hypnotherapist. I will also in this video give you an example of my life situation where I have basically discovered that this is limiting me and how it impacted me. So my goal is to help you also get an understanding, because once you get an understanding of something that is working on a subconscious level behind the scenes and controlling you, that thing no longer controls you fully because now you understand it. So this understanding will be another step towards your freedom from these limitations. So why is being a good girl or good boy limiting your success? So first of all, this is how our brain works. In our subconscious mind, we literally have this box within which we operate. All the reactions and feelings and how we see ourselves and how we perceive the world, all of these are stored and recorded in our subconscious mind in this box of beliefs. And our mind operates within the boundaries of this box, meaning all of those beliefs are like codes of behaviors that most of them we have adopted in a very early childhood, by the age of 2, 3, 4, 5. And those beliefs that we have adopted about ourselves and about the world, they are limiting us in terms of how we feel, how we react, what we think is available to us. And we operate within this box, within the boundaries of this box. And the boundaries are these beliefs. And most of them, as I say, 99% of them we have adopted in our childhood. So if in our childhood we had very strict parents, meaning we were raised by people who were very strict and demanded for us to obey, listen and obey and execute exactly what they ask us. Otherwise, we would get punished. We wouldn't get what we wanted. We wouldn't get maybe a toy or a sweet. So we would be punished in a certain way, either physically or verbally. We would be told, oh, you're not a good boy, you're a bad boy, which is really hurtful. And having this said by a parent really hurts a child. So there's either a punishment, a physical, mental, or there's some kind of punishment in a way of you are not going to get this sweet, or you're not going to get this toy that you wanted, or you cannot go and play with your friends. So in that situation, a child's brain is looking for a way to avoid these negative outcomes, punishments, verbal insults, because it feels bad, or some sort of restriction. Again, it feels bad. So a child can, in certain scenarios, a child could choose how to basically make themselves feel better in this situation where parents are very strict. One of the options is to become a good boy, a good girl. There are other options, for example, a rebel. So a child really wants to take their power back. because they know that what they want is really what they want, and it feels so true and it should be respected. So they rebel. So we call these children difficult and so on. But another role that a child can take, there are other roles, but one of them is being a good boy, a good girl. What that means is a child in the situation where there's a strict parent wants to avoid being punished, wants to avoid feeling screamed at by their parents. And they say, okay, in order for me to avoid being screamed at, being punished, I need to obey. Because these situations with these parents are repeated on a daily basis. And a child understands really quickly, okay, the only way for me to avoid this pain of these negative scenarios, punishments, and being screamed at is for me to obey. Meaning, they tell me what I need to do at any point in time, and I execute. What I want, what I feel does not matter. What they want me to do matters more. And then they're going to tell me that I'm a good girl, good boy. So in our childhood, when we were told you're a good girl, such a good girl, you're such a good boy, that meant you are executing perfectly what I'm telling you to do. You have forgotten what you want, what you need, how you feel. You are only listening to what I'm saying and you are executing. Good girl, good boy. So when we were children, we have adopted this role of a good boy or good girl, meaning we have got this habit of reacting in this way, meaning in order to avoid negative consequences in any situation, or in order to get praised or some kind of reward, I need to be a good boy, I need to be a good girl, meaning I need to forget about what I want. I need to just execute what I'm told. Now, we keep this rule, we keep these beliefs and this way of acting and responding to situations, even when we are adults. And what happens is, so I give you an example what happened to me. I was in a situation where, so prior to becoming a therapist and hypnotherapist, I worked in investment banking. And at some point in my career, I worked there in that industry for 10 years. And at some point in my career, it was basically towards the start of mid of my career, I felt very frustrated because I just couldn't get promoted. I was working, in my mind, I was working so hard. I was working extra hours, I was working hard, I was stressed, and everyone around me, that it seemed to me everyone around was getting promoted except for me. And I was very frustrated. And then at that point, I was doing a lot of inner work, and it clicked. One day it clicked. I was raised to be a good girl. Because when I was growing up, that was the parenting method that was considered to be good. So that's how I was raised, because at that point in time, that generation thought this is the right way to raise your children, for them to be obeying and nice and listening to what you're saying and just executing. That meant you're a good parent and you have good children. So I was raised in this way. And now I'm in a workplace. And now I do the same thing. I listen and I execute. And I was very good in that position of just executing. But in order to go to the next level, meaning a leadership role where you are the one leading and making decisions, leading the way, I could not get there because in my mind, I was good at executing. I wouldn't dare step into another role because in my mind, I needed to be good and executing. That's how I avoid punishment. And that's how I was expecting to get praise and rewarded. But the reward was not coming in a shape of promotion. So I was very frustrated. I didn't understand what is happening. What was happening was that I was playing the role that I knew how to play. A role of a person who is executing, not leading and thinking about what I think is good in this situation, but only executing. So if you're only showing to your employer, your team, that you are just good at executing, that's where you're going to stay. And in my mind, this is the only role I could imagine myself in. I mean, I wanted to be promoted, but in my mind, this is really key, really important. I've realized later, in my mind, I always saw myself as someone who is good at executing other people's orders. This is the role that I have adopted in my childhood. And a person who is good at executing is going to get that role in a team, in a company. That person cannot go and be a leader, because that person doesn't even dare to step out, doesn't even let themselves be a leader, because they're playing this role of a person executing that they have adopted in their childhood. So I was playing this role, expecting reward. The reward was not coming, because in my childhood the reward would come if I was a good girl executing. And at this point, because I've reached a certain point where just executing well wasn't enough to go to the next step. The next promotion would have to be being a leader. And I could not see myself, in my head, I could not see myself as someone leading and basically deciding what the best thing is in a particular situation and leading the way. I was always the one executing because I was scared. I was scared. I was literally as scared as that little child was. Imagine if that child says to their mom, excuse me, I'm ready to take on a leadership role and I know what is best in this particular situation. So I'm going to tell you and you follow. No way. No way. That's how I felt in that company. That's how terrified I felt as that child. It was literally as if I was a child trying to tell my parent that I deserve a better role. So understanding this was mind-blowing for me. It was eye-opening. So understanding that in our childhood, we adopt certain rules that were keeping us safe in the childhood, either moving us away from unpleasant situations like punishment or giving us some kind of reward from our parent. And we have adopted this role of being a good girl, a good boy, which meant I'm purely executing. It is not me who is a leader here. It's not me listening to my own feeling of what should be done now or shouldn't be done now. I'm not taking that into account. I'm putting that on the side. I'm just executing what the person in front of me has told me to do. And this is what we do in the workplace. And this is not enough if we want to go on and take a leadership position, be promoted to a leadership position. So what we need to do, so understanding this, our mind is keeping us within the boundaries of this rule. Not all the children adopt this role, but if you have adopted this role, you'll probably recognize yourself. Just understanding this will give you a lot of clarity, and it's a starting point of understanding that basically your own beliefs that you have adopted, a role that you have adopted in your childhood, has been limiting your progress, limiting your success in your career. It's also impacting all the other areas of our lives, but today we're talking about a career and a success in a career and a promotion. So the next step would be, well, first to understand that this is the case, and the next step would be to catch yourself in those moments where you want to step out into a leadership position, notice how you feel. Because that is the unconscious trigger. Unconsciously, the role is just coming in and taking over, determining how you feel and how you respond. So switch on consciously and analyze, how do you feel? What are you saying to yourself? And this is a starting point, and you need to work on, either with a therapist, or there are a lot of books you can read and a lot of videos you can listen to on this topic. So I hope you found this helpful, and I wish you an amazing day. I wish you to be limitless. I wish you to expand these boundaries of your limiting beliefs, to expand them so much that you are limitless, that you achieve all the success that you want, and that you are just fully happy with all your successes. Have an amazing day.